So the first thing I want to focus on is actually enabling this drag and drop. Now, before we do that, let's go to code, and I would like to create a string, okay? Now I have a string within inside a string, so let's use raw strings, and I want to say hello, name, view. Of course, this will not work, right? If you look at the preview, we have the backslash parentheses name. The string interpolation is not working. If I want the raw string, if I want the string interpolation to work with a raw string just means that we have these pound signs at the end. Then I need to add a pound sign right here. And now you can see hello wind view. Hello wind view because the name is wind. Okay, so I would like us to implement drag and drop, and we're going to do that using onDrag. Okay, so I'm going to go down to this text, and right here, right where I said to do, let's say onDrag. So onDrag, and I'm going to be using NS item provider. Okay, this is used for transferring data for drag and drop. So NS item provider. And now we want to transfer a string. So the object will be code. Now this won't work. We need to convert this or say as NS item provider writing. Okay, this has to conform to the NS item provider writing protocol. So we need to cast this. Let's see what Xcode suggests. Xcode suggests exactly that. And at this point, we're done. Now let's try to test this out. First of all, we can just drag this literally into our project right now. Right? Insane. Yeah, I can just do it like that. Here, I'm dragging from the preview, not even the simulator, directly into Xcode. Okay? Anywhere where your system knows how to accept text, this will work. For instance, if this is going to cause a bit of a mess, but if I were to drag this into the model folder, let's see what happens. It creates a new file, because currently in Xcode 16, this will create files for you. So this is a text file. I can change it to Swift. If we would have a struct and a view, etc., and import SwiftUI, or at least a struct code view, it would even recognize that we're working with a Swift file. Of course, this feature is part of Xcode 16. Okay, so anywhere you can drag text, this will work. Now, I don't really want this text file in our project, so I'm going to delete it. So delete, move to trash. Okay, so I'm still amazed. Let's do one more test. I open text edit. And let's drag into text edit, and it works. Really, to me, this is very impressive. Okay, and we can also learn a lot from this. For instance, there's no new line here, so we could add a new line. In any case, our code is going to be more complex than hello wind view or name view or whatever. But I could literally drag and drop all day because I'm still amazed. However, we have better things to do. So let's continue. Okay, so let's start setting up our mesh gradient. So let's call this mesh gradient code. This will be of type string. I'm going to use a multi-line string. And we'll do something. Now we're going to have to check with tab and everything. Let's say mesh gradient. Now we did say we have some sample text, so it'd be better to use that sample code. It's down here. So we have this code. So it would be wise to just copy this instead of just typing everything. Now I'm going to get rid of the points and the color, but this is really a good reference. So let's replace this. Okay. Now for the code, we do want to see this update live. So let's say for the code, let's actually get rid of this for now. And really, let's let the code be the mesh gradient code. Okay? For now, it'll be the mesh gradient code. Now, instead of width, I want columns. Instead of height, I want rows. Instead of points, I want some points code. Okay? So points code. Instead of colors, I want colors code. So we'll have to deal with that in a future lecture. And for the background color, I want background color, and I want to put a little dot over here. Okay, great. Now for points code, let's create a computed property, points code. This will be a string. For now, let's just say an empty string. And I want colors code. Okay, so now down here in mesh gradient code, let's use string interpolation, with points code. And similarly, let's add colors code. Now we're going to need some helper functions. Okay, great. So I'm going to fold the body. Let's also fold code. And below the body, we'll create a couple of functions. So let's say func points as code. And this will accept points, an array of points of simd2 float. It will accept a certain number of rows, which will be an integer, and columns, which will also be an integer. And it will return a string. Okay, so for now, let's say var result equals to, now it's going to be an array, so we could just start with double brackets, for instance, and return result. Of course, we're going to want to iterate over the points and add tabs, etc. Oh, and I did not add the return value of a string, so let's do that now. So that's points as code. We also want colors as code. And since result was never mutated, later we'll be mutating it, so we can leave that. So we also want colors as code. So we'll want to implement that. And maybe we'll see an overlap with functionality, then we can ask ourselves, can we simplify things? Okay, great. Okay, great. Now let's actually use these functions, which we haven't implemented yet, but we will. So let's add a to-do, implement, points as code. I mean, we're going to be doing this in the next lecture anyways, but it's good to have some to-dos here. Okay, but let's make sure we're using it, because I don't see the effects in the preview. For instance, if I type letters here, nothing happens in the preview because we're not using these letters. So let's scroll up. By the way, in the scroll view, we can get rid of this hello wind view. And let's get rid of this slider, which, to be honest, I don't know how it got into this code base. Maybe between recordings, I accidentally pasted it into here, and I only noticed this midway into the lecture. That's taken care of. Okay, great. Okay, so now let's go to points code. and I want to use the function which we haven't implemented yet, called points as code. I'll press Control M, and we will be entering our points, our rows, and our columns. Okay, similarly, let's use colors as code. Press Control M, not Command M, and once again, let's enter points, rows, and columns. We're trying to work as organized as possible, okay? We want to break down the complexity. I don't want to try to do everything in one piece of code, okay? Great, so I think this is a good time to take a break. In the next lecture, we'll be implementing these two functions, and slowly and surely we'll complete the app. Okay, it'll take a little time, but it's well worth it because we'll have a very nice result at the end. So have an amazing day, and see you next time.